he's like laying there dying. And this is where it gets, ooh, this is where it makes me angry. Girls, it's Demi here, and today I'm making a video that I have wanted to make for so long, and it's all about, one, my worst doctor's experience ever, but two, what to do when your doctor tells you you're fine but you don't feel like you're fine, or when you go to your doctor to talk about your period and you feel like you're not being listened to or heard, or you're not getting the answers you want. So I'm going to share with you my worst doctor's experience ever, because it's a good way to introduce some of the things that I want to talk about. So this is a story, like grab a snack, because this is a story time. This didn't even actually happen to me. It happened to my husband, but I was there and it affected me just as much. So my husband has been having troubles with his nose and breathing, and we thought he's like got sinusitis or a deviated septum and he just can't breathe properly. So we booked in to see a specialist. Well, sorry, first off, we'd seen our GP. GP referred him on to a specialist, which is the same thing you can do with your period, by the way. Anyway, so we paid a lot of money to see this specialist. Like, specialists aren't cheap. We go into the appointment, and right off the bat, I was like, this is a bit strange, because within the first couple of minutes of the appointment, usually a doctor would ask you, about your symptoms, about what you do for work, and get to know you and your life, because I believe that everything that you do, your work, your living situation, if you're in a relationship, what you are exposed to in terms of chemicals or toxins, your diet, your lifestyle, if you're a smoker, all of those things are really relevant to your health. And Justin wasn't asked any of those questions. He was asked a few questions about the symptoms he's been experiencing with his nose, but nothing beyond that, and not really in-depth questions. Like, we had to stop the doctor and be like, oh, but this has been happening. He's been having nosebleeds. He's been having this. Oh, this happened the other day, because we needed to bring them up because he didn't ask about them. So the doctor got out the camera that gets shoved up your nose so that they can look inside your nose. Justin, yeah, he was laying on the bed, and Justin's my husband, by the way. The doctor puts the camera up his nose and looks around, and the whole time Justin's like wincing because like it's the most uncomfortable. Fair enough, you've got something up your nose going down your throat, and then the doctor pulls it out, and my husband goes into shock, like full-on shock, like changed color. He had a big physical reaction, like it was a little bit scary, but the doctor was like, oh, this happens all the time, and just laid him down, and then just started talking to me about other things. And I was like, wait, hold on, like, is Justin okay? Like, he's like laying there dying and you're just acting as though nothing's happening. This apparently does happen all the time, but just the lack of sympathy, I was like, come on, dude, like, I'm not going to talk to you like nothing's happening while my husband's sitting there dying, and also I'm not taking in what you're saying to me right now. Anyway, so he explained to me a couple of things about Justin's nose that he saw when he put the camera inside, but he didn't explain it to Justin, and Justin's there half dying, not listening at all. And then when Justin eventually became okay again, he didn't explain these things that he explained to me to Justin, and Justin's the actual patient. And also, I couldn't really listen properly because I was worried about my husband. So anyway, he explained, but not very well, that Justin's septum has been deviated and he was probably born like that, but he thinks that it's an allergy issue. He's like, but in order to treat the allergies, I have to make your nose stop bleeding. I'm just gonna, and this is where it gets, this is where it makes me angry. So he's like, I just have to stick something up each nostril for 5 seconds each. You won't feel a thing. And after that, it'll make your nose stop bleeding. And goes ahead, doesn't really give us a chance to respond, goes ahead and puts something up each of Justin's nostrils, and then goes, okay, so now you can't blow your nose for 6 weeks? I think it was 6 weeks. Yeah, now you can't blow your nose for 6 weeks. And I forgot to mention that when we arrived at his office, we told him that Justin was sick, like he had a virus or something. He was sick and he couldn't breathe through his nose because he was all blocked up. And the doctor did something and then was like, now you can't blow your nose for 6 weeks. Mate, if we knew that, we wouldn't have said yes. This is where I get angry. Informed consent. As a patient, we need to be informed by our doctors in order to make decisions, yes or no, as to whether we want to take a certain medication, have a certain procedure done, whatever. He didn't tell us what he was doing. He said, I'm gonna put something up each nostril. Fast forward a bit, I got into the car and had to Google thing in your nose to make it stop bleeding, to figure out what the name of this procedure actually was. The name of the procedure is nasal cauterization, where they use a chemical burn to burn the blood vessels on your nose so it kind of seals them off so they stop bleeding. It's a procedure. It's a medical procedure. We weren't given the name of the procedure. We weren't told the aftercare information. So you can't blow your nose for 6 weeks. And this is going to happen. This is going to happen. These are the side effects. We weren't given any of that information before he did it or after. So we left that office. Justin felt horrible. He didn't talk to me for the next 2 hours because he physically couldn't speak. He felt horrible. And I was left in shock because I was like, what just happened to my husband? But I wasn't even given a name of a procedure or any information about it. Anyway, I'll rewind back to after he did that and told us he couldn't blow his nose. Then he pretty much just kind of stood up and said, so once your nose stops bleeding, come back and I'll give you medication to treat the allergies. And I said to him, sorry, what's causing the allergies? What is he allergic to? The doctor's like, it doesn't matter what he's allergic to. It doesn't matter what's causing the allergies. You'd treat it the same anyway. And I said, no, it matters to me because if he's allergic to house dust mites, well, I'm not going to vacuum around him and I'll wash our bed sheets more. But if he's allergic to grass, well then that doesn't matter and we won't go sitting out on grass. It matters, but I asked the question and he didn't really want to give me the answers. It seemed like he was really annoyed that I was even asking these questions. Anyway, so he stood up and kind of just said, you come back when your nose has stopped bleeding. All the while I'm trying to ask these questions that I still have because he hasn't really given us any answers about why Justin persistently can't breathe. It's a longer story. I'm kind of telling the short version. And he was like pushing us out of his office and I'm like, sorry, I still have questions. And he's like, you can ask them next time you're here. Okay, Justin was in shock. I was in shock. He was literally in shock. I was in emotional shock. And then I was like, we left and came home. I did lots of research, figured out what actually happened, which was the nasal cauterization. I rang the clinic the next day. I talked to the clinic manager and I told her all the reasons I was upset and didn't feel like I was being listened to and heard. And she got that doctor to call me. And then I spent 40 minutes with him on the phone, which is longer than the actual in-person consultation we had the previous day. I spent 40 minutes with him on the phone getting him to answer all the questions that I had. Now, I'm telling you this story because one, I felt so hopeless and so demoralized after that appointment, and I don't ever want any of you girls to feel like that. When you go and you try and do the right thing to seek help for your health concerns, but then you're not heard or you're not listened to, or you're given this information that you don't understand. You need to understand things. In Justin's situation, a procedure was done on him without his permission. And Sometimes that can happen, but sometimes it's medications. We're prescribed medications and we don't have enough information to say, yes, this is the right thing for me to take, or no, this is not the right thing for me to take. It's informed consent. I mean, in this situation, it's just an informed decision if you're making a decision about medications, but a lot of medications, for instance, the pill, can cause so many other side effects for your period, and then in the long run you have a worse period, your gut health's compromised, your overall health is compromised. There's so many things that the pill can affect, and so that makes it the right choice for one person but not the right choice for another. So that's the first reason I tell you this story. The second reason I tell you this story is because of what I did afterwards. I went home, I researched, I made sure that I felt as equipped and empowered as possible to then go and talk to them the next day. Here's the thing, it's easy to get sucked into Dr. Google and like go Googling all your symptoms. I don't suggest completely cutting out health professionals and Googling everything, but for me, I didn't even have the name of the procedure, so I needed to at least Google that. And then I needed to know the right questions to ask the next day. I needed to know if I should ask, is he allowed to do heavy lifting? Is he allowed to do sports after these procedures? Does he have to clean his nose in a special way? All of those kinds of questions, because I didn't know, what the aftercare looked like at all. And then I tell you this story because the next day I rang up and I made sure I got my answers. And I think it's so important because this is your health and you deserve answers about what's happening inside of your own body. So I rang the clinic manager. Usually each clinic will have a manager, so I highly recommend doing that because it got me answers. So that doctor had to call me that day, and I, because I'd done my research, had a list of questions I wanted to ask him, and I made him ask all my questions. So highly recommend doing that. And then the last reason I tell you this story is because of what we did after that. So I was like, I'm not going back to him. I don't trust him. Here's the thing, you need to have a trust relationship between you and your health professional, someone who's taking you along the journey. They should be invested in your health and investigating your health and getting answers for your health, for you. And I just don't think that he was the right person. You'll know if they're the right person or not. You'll get that feeling that they listen to you. You'll get that feeling that you can trust them. We didn't have that with him, and that's okay. He might be the best person for somebody else. Like somebody else might really like the way that he works. So after that, what we did was go and seek out a second opinion. So we went and found another doctor, and one of you bright girls actually gave me the recommendation, so thank you so much. So we went and saw another doctor, and that experience was completely different. When he put the camera up Justin's nose, Justin said he didn't really feel it very much. It was so much more comfortable. So I just think he was better at doing his job. And then he gave us a lot more information. So he gave us written like handouts, leaflets, and took the time to explain to us what was happening inside Justin's nose. And he actually showed us Justin's nose on camera so that we could actually see what was going on. I won't bore you with the details, but he was just head and shoulders better than the other doctor. So I highly recommend seeking a second opinion if you are feeling like your doctor's not giving you the answers you're wanting. What do you do when your doctor says it's fine, but you don't feel fine? If it's impacting your everyday life, that's the time to go to the doctor. Ask for your hormones to be tested.